If you're worried about getting your kids ready for school, we're here to help. My name is Shazad, and I'm the co-founder here at Axiom Learning. We've got a webinar coming up in a few days, which we invite you to register for, where we're going to talk about all the things that you need to be thinking about to get your kids ready for school. It's been a really odd and awkward several months. Most people were virtual in the spring, and some of you are kind of going back into the fall. Some of you are going to be in school, some of you are going to be virtual, some of you are going to be in a hybrid situation. And so there's a lot that we need to be thinking about as parents for our kids. Some of the things we're going to be talking about, for example, are we're going to talk about the 4 areas that every parent needs to be thinking about for purposes of making sure their kids are fully ready for school. The first is executive functioning, things like organizing my space, organizing my time, getting those time management skills in place. Task efficiency, by that what we mean is kind of understanding how to get more done in the time that you have rather than just kind of working our way through it and spending a lot of time on stuff, right? So we'll talk about how to develop those skills before school starts. Those are by far the most important skills, but you also want to talk about academics. There's a thing called front loading or previewing. I'll talk about that in a minute. We're also going to talk about writing practice. You got to remember, even if your kids write for fun, writing for school is a little bit different. You kind of got to get them back in the flow for that. Don't forget physical fitness. Your school is actually pretty physically demanding. You get up early. You're asked to pay attention for hours at a time. You have PE, you have lunch. A lot of people have after-school activities. So just kind of getting your kids ready for that is going to be really important. A big part of getting your kids ready physically is getting their sleep habits back in place. I don't know about you, but I've got 3 kids at home, and they have been sleeping later and later as the summer's gone on. You kind of want to, you can't just kind of hit reset all at once. It makes for a really rough first week or 2 weeks if they haven't got those sleep habits. So just slow, you can't do it all at once. So kind of ratchet back their sleep times by half an hour, 20 minutes, 15 minutes a day until they get back to kind of something resembling a normal schedule. And of course, emotionally, right? So let's not forget that school, especially middle school and high school, for those of you whose kids are older, it's pretty stressful. And it's been especially stressful because there's been a lot of really interesting social movement that's happened in the last several months as people have gone online and realized that they need their friends more than they thought they did or less than they thought they did. Some kids were actually happier at home, and now they're dreading going back to school, and vice versa, right? And we've got to realize COVID-19 is not under control in a lot of our areas. And so even if we are going back to school physically at the beginning of the fall, there is a very reasonable chance that in a lot of cases, we won't be physical the whole time, right? We'll have to go back to virtual. And so just getting your kids emotionally ready for kind of a lot of uncertainty is something that's really, really important for them to be successful in all these other things. A pro tip, you'll see it at the bottom of the slide, is it's really important, we found to define the goals that you have for the school year before the school year starts. Oftentimes we find ourselves just kind of the school year start and we're trying to hit reset, but we're all so busy all the time that we never actually get a chance to take full advantage of all of the opportunities that school actually offers us. Something we often forget, right? So let's talk a little bit about kind of academics. We know that academically research shows that 37 to 50% of what kids would have normally learned during the school year, they lost when they went virtual. That's a huge hit in math. And it's so much as 5/8 of what they would have learned in language arts, reading and English in particular. A lot of that was lost as well. And so you want to get your kids kind of primed and started. And so what we do at Axiom, for example, is we work with a lot of our students to kind of get them going. We'll talk about a lot more when we get to the webinars. The 2 big things academically that we want everybody to know are, number 1, writing skills. Academic writing, as I said before, is different. It's not the same thing as creative writing. So you kind of want to just get a little bit of practice kind of getting back in the flow. And then you want to front load or preview the classes that they're going to find difficult, especially, right? So if they've got math classes coming up, history classes, science classes, to do a little bit of work beforehand where they see some of the material they're going to see in school before school actually starts. The second or third time they see the material is when they actually see it in class. It becomes a lot easier for them, right? And so doing a little bit of what we call front loading is a technical term. It's really just previewing for the most part. We do that with a lot of our kids at Axiom. It makes a huge difference. Stress levels drop, grades rise. And so that's something that we recommend that everybody do. Executive functioning is actually more linked, has a greater correlation to long-term success as an adult than academic readiness, right? So executive functioning is essentially your brain's CEO. It's determining what we're doing and when we're doing it and how we're doing it in the space that we do it in. And so it's things like, time management, organization, organizing your space, things like that. And so, what we have found is actually executive function is actually more important than academics in long-term success. How successful your kids are going to be when they get to college. If they're primary school kids, how successful they'll be with middle school. If they're in middle school, how successful they'll be in high school. all of that is built on executive functioning, right? And so, you know, part of what we want to do is we reset our schedules, is we want to help you kind of understand when we do things better and when we do things a little bit less well. It turns out when we've got big, large things that we're trying to get done, we want to do those earlier in the day, right? And ideally, you're kind of getting their sleep schedules reset exactly so that they get used to doing big things during the day. What you don't want to do is kind of have them wake up in the morning and just kind of, you know, twiddle away, tweedle away, I don't know what the word is, their mornings, because you want to get them in the habit of using mornings to get big things done. When they get back to school, that will help them a great deal. Pro tip for you guys, I know a lot of kids have been on their screens, on their phones, playing video games late into the night, watching TV, binging Netflix. The one thing that you're going to do if you don't do anything else that we talk about today, you're going to want to start by having them limit their screen time, especially at the end of the day. So what the research shows is when we're on our screens, not just our kids, but also our cortisol levels rise. Cortisol is essentially our stress hormone, right? And it actually delays sleep. And even if we're able to sleep, the sleep is less quality. And so limiting screen time in general is a good thing, but definitely want to limit it as we get towards the end of the day, in part because you really want to ensure that they have proper sleep. All right, so we're going to talk about this and a whole lot more in the webinar. Please do register. Click here, register. You know, it'll start at 11 a.m. on the West Coast, 2 p.m. on the East Coast. If you're somewhere in the middle of the country, you do the math. If you're outside of the country, definitely do the math. But hopefully we'll see you guys in a few days. And until then, stay safe.